Hello. My name is Callista, and welcome to the Dragon Age Keep. Yes, I am once again doing Dragon Age content. It has been such a long time. Hello there, how are you doing? And obviously, as I'm doing Dragon Age content again, that means my Inquisition Let's Play will be dropping on my channel very soon. In fact, I am very happy to announce that episode 1 of Dragon Age Inquisition will be uploaded on my channel on Monday, the 24th of January. By the time you are seeing this, there should only be about a week until episode 1 goes live. I'm so excited to get into Inquisition. I'm so excited to introduce you to my Inquisitor. I absolutely adore her. Now, I figured, whilst I was preparing for Inquisition, I would show you all my tapestry in the Dragon Age Keep, just kind of go over the choices and decisions I made in Origins and Dragon Age 2, and I guess just go over the story so far. Now, obviously, we are going to be getting started with the hero of Ferelden, in my case, Her Royal Highness of Orzammar, the Princess Artyn Iduken. I loved Artyn so much. She really holds a very special place in my heart. And yes, I do say that about all of my wardens, because it's true. Artyn was this very serious, no-nonsense, get the job done kind of lady. She was a rogue, however, in her heart, her father raised a soldier. She might not have the skill set of a soldier, but she was one in her heart. And I think that really influenced her. She was also a diplomat, I should say. She preferred to use her words rather than her sword. However, if worst came to worst, then she was no slouch in a fight. And as you can see, she is alive and well. She did indeed survive the events of the Fifth Blight. Moving on to our companions. Artyn did indeed romance Alistair. A very unlikely couple. As I said, Artyn was very serious. She did kind of have a bit of a stick up her butt at times. And then you had Alistair, this very sarcastic and funny and a little bit childish at times man. And at the start of the story, Artyn really hated Alistair. She was just so exasperated with him. You know, he wouldn't take anything seriously. He was constantly cracking jokes. She was like face palming every time he opened his mouth. However, over the course of the story, that relationship blossomed into romance and true love, I'd like to think. And it was all because she discovered Alistair was a prince. No, I don't mean that in a selfish way, how dare you. But it was the discovery that Alistair was a prince who had no interest in his noble blood, because that really resonated with Artyn. Orzammar society is so fixated on gaining more honor and more prestige and climbing the social, ladder. And here's the thing, Artyn was a princess. She was at the top of society. Her head was hitting the ceiling. She couldn't go up. And she kind of made her peace with that very early on in her life. She thought to herself, I don't need to gain honor. I don't need to gain prestige. I am at the top. If I tried to do that, it'd just drive me insane. And so she always kind of felt, my people will never understand me. It is highly unlikely that I will ever meet anyone who understands the way I feel. I am a princess. I don't need more. And then she met Alistair, who, like her, wasn't really all that interested in, using her noble connections, or in his case, his noble connections. He wasn't interested in using his noble blood to his advantage. And Artyn kind of took a step back and went, oh, you're like me. I didn't expect that. Maybe we're more alike than I first thought. And like I said, that opened the door for their romance. And Artin and Alistair's relationship, they kind of are my OTP, not gonna lie. We recruited the dog because of course we would. Doggo is a good bubba. Loghain was executed by Alistair. Artin really didn't have anything against Loghain, mainly because she wasn't loyal to the Wardens. She really didn't care about the group. She respected them, but she wasn't fanatically loyal. She was kind of like, I'll be a Grey Warden for as long as it is profitable to Orzammar. Everything she did was for Orzammar, not for the Grey Wardens. So Loghain's betrayal at the Battle of Ostagar, Artin was kind of like, I've been betrayed by my brother just recently. Why should I care about this guy? So Artin had no beef with Loghain. So at the end of the game, at the Landsmeet, when Alistair was demanding he be executed, Artin's response was effectively, well, if you want his head so badly, you take it. I don't really care. We persuaded the revered mother to give us the key to Sten's cage. Artin was a diplomat. She could fix a problem with her words, you know. There was absolutely no need to get violent. We recruited Sten, we recruited Oghren, we returned Sten's sword, we recruited Zevran, and Zevran is indeed alive and well. He did not attempt to return to Antiva with the, oh, bloody hell, with the crows, there we go. It's been too long. It's been too long since I immersed myself in this franchise. I'm forgetting faction names. We recruited Wynn. Alistair stayed with the Wardens. Yes, Artin didn't put him on the throne. Mainly because, like I said, Artin, she really felt a kinship with Alistair. And so she kind of put herself in his shoes. If someone put her on the throne of Orzammar, Artin didn't want to be queen. Like I said, she was happy being a princess. She had no designs on the throne of Orzammar. So if someone placed her on there without her consent, she would be extremely upset. Mainly because Artin knew that she wasn't right for Orzammar. She was too much of a diplomat. She would spend too much of her time creating compromises in the assembly, and ultimately that wouldn't be a benefit to Orzammar. Orzammar doesn't need compromise. Orzammar needs tyranny. That's the only way it's gonna survive. The assembly is choking Orzammar to death. And Artin could never bring herself to be that tyrant. She simply didn't have it in her. She was raised to be a diplomat. So she would have absolutely hated if someone had put her on the throne of Orzammar. And she wasn't about to be that hypocrite and put Alistair on the throne of Ferelden. Which did have the plus side of Alistair remaining with the Grey Wardens and Artin. Wynn is alive and well, as is Liliana. Morrigan had the old god baby with Alistair. I wonder what this will be. Consequences. And we acquired the Grimoire by defeating Flemeth in glorious battle. Next up, Nature of the Beast. We brokered peace. As I've said before, Artin was a diplomat. To be honest, she didn't really care about what was going on with the Dalish, and you are going to hear me say that a lot. Artin didn't care about most things. And, you know, kind of fighting the werewolves, it was more effort than it was worth. Artin could have solved the problem with her words, and that is ultimately what she ended up doing. There was no need to resort to a fight where potentially someone could get hurt, someone could lose their life. Like I said, it was more trouble than it was worth. Brokering peace was easier. We didn't tell Athras about his wife. This choice actually made me pause in the game. I wasn't sure what Artin would do, whether she'd inform Athras that, hey, you were right, your wife was turned into a werewolf, or whether she'd respect Denaila's wishes and effectively let Athras live in ignorance. And ultimately, I figured Artin would be more inclined to respect the wishes of the dying person, and Denaila didn't want Athras to know. She wanted him to just think that she had died and, you know, he could go on and live his life and he wouldn't be burdened by that knowledge. So that is ultimately what Artin decided to do. She brought Cammon and Gaina together. We brought Master Varathorn, the Ironbark. We saved the Hala, and we returned Dagon to the Dalish camp. Again, most of this it wasn't because Artin cared, it was because she was trying to get good propaganda for the Grey Wardens. She didn't care about the Grey Wardens, however, she wasn't going to half-ass the job, if you know what I mean. And, you know, she was going to do it to the best of her capability, and, you know, they needed some good propaganda. She needed the people of Ferelden to be saying good things about them, because, you know, Loghain had been spreading a load of nasty rumours. Paragon of her kind. We defeated Bronca and destroyed the anvil, and that did break Artin's heart a little bit. Artin was going to use the anvil before she learned the truth about it, before she learned that it relied on the souls of the living to make a golem. However, once she learned that, she knew Orzammar simply couldn't be trusted with something so powerful. They were just too desperate. They were too desperate, and they would be much too quick to sacrifice the castless. And so Artin, she was very sad to have to destroy it. I think on some level she had hoped that, you know, maybe one day when things aren't so dire and we've evolved beyond the caste system, maybe then we'd be responsible enough to use the anvil. However, right then and there, they weren't. And unfortunately, Caradin insisted on the anvil being destroyed. So, you know, sad times, but they weren't ready for it. It was too great a responsibility. Dagna left to study, indeed. Again, this was another decision where Artin, she felt a little badly. Artin was very family-oriented. And so the idea of, you know, sending someone away to the surface where they'd become castless, they'd never be able to see their family again, it did upset Artin a little bit. However, one, Dagna wanted to go, and two, this would give them a very nice in with the Circle of Magi. Orzammar could begin creating trade deals with the Circle rather than having to go through the Chantry. And as I said before, at least I think I said before, everything Artin did, she did for Orzammar. She was constantly trying to scrape together new trade deals and new agreements and all of that. And Dagna being in the Circle, as I said, it gave Orzammar a very nice way in. Now this, I would imagine this to be very surprising to anyone who has had an Idukan warden. Balin rules Orzammar. As I said, Artin very loyal to her family, and it wasn't that she forgave Balin or that she was kind of like, oh, you tried to have me killed, oh, you rambunctious scamp, you. It wasn't that. It was just the fact of, I want my family to thrive. And I know my little brother, if he doesn't get the throne, he is going to throw such a hissy fit that it will destroy all of House Idukan. And I am not going to be the one who lets my house fall. My house before anything, before my pride, before my honor, anything. I will do anything to ensure my house survives. And that meant Balin ruling Orzammar. Artin, she isn't happy with her little brother. She loves him. She loves him, but she certainly isn't the type to forget what he did, if you get what I mean. We didn't encounter Mardi, and we didn't have a son with Mardi because, you know, Artin was a lady. We said Rook had died. This was a very similar situation to Delilah. Telling this woman that her son was alive but insane in the Deep Roads, eating darkspawn flesh, it wouldn't have brought her any peace. And Rook himself asked that we tell her that he had died, so it seemed like the right thing to do. We proved the Legion of the Dead was connected to a noble house. We returned the tome to the Shaperate. We didn't help Burkle create the Chantry. Hell no. Artin didn't understand the Chantry at all, considering that the dwarves worship their ancestors, you know, who you can all prove existed. You have, like, family trees, and they worship the stone, which, you know, you can just, on the floor, anytime you want to prove its existence. She didn't really understand the Chantry and worshipping a maker, you know, some invisible man in the sky. She didn't understand it, but, like, fuck it, you do you, over there, not over here. Like, Artin, she saw what the Chantry had done to the elves. They had wiped out their culture. Like hell, they were going to come under the surface and do that in Orzammar. No thank you. She helped Zerlinda reconcile with her family. We completed Rogek's Lyrium deal. And we helped Orta to join the Assembly. Next up, the Broken Circle. We supported the mages, in air quotes. To be brutally honest, Artin didn't care about the plight of the mages. She was a dwarf. Mages are a human problem. And also, she never saw this plight. During her entire time in Origins, she never met any mages who said anything dodgy was going on in the circle. She met Irving, she met Wynne, both of whom very pro-circle. The only mage she ever met who said anything remotely dodgy about the circle was a blood mage who attacked her, and then after Artin defeated her, this blood mage said the Templars were watching, always watching. What? That's their job. Of course they're going to be watching, thought Artin. Like, if there had been a load of mages saying the Templars have been assaulting us and, you know, they beat us, they don't treat us with respect, they deny us certain rights, you know, they're rapey as hell. Like, if she had had a bunch of mages tell her that, then I think Artin would have been a lot more sympathetic. However, she never encountered that. The Templars in Ferelden were never as bad as the ones in Kirkwall. If she had seen what was going on in Kirkwall, she probably would have been a lot more sympathetic. However, she didn't. And she never heard about the Templars committing any kind of crimes. So she really didn't care about the plight of the mages. And to be honest, the only reason she supported the mages was because they asked for her help first. If the Templars had got in there and said, hey, can you help us wipe out all of the remaining mages in the tower, she would have said yes, because she didn't care. She simply didn't care about what was going on in that situation, so it's really rather lucky that the mages asked first. First Enchanter Irving survived the battle, and we did not agree to Cullen's request because, you know, why would Artin agree to his request? She has no say in this matter. She's not a mage. She doesn't belong up here. You know, she would much rather listen to the First Enchanter than put her opinion where it's not really necessary, if that makes sense. Next up, Denerim. Yes, Sir Landry was alive. We didn't fight him. We told Ban Sigurd about his son Oswin. We brought the scroll, to Sister Justine. We completed Slim Coldry's crime wave. This was all to do with, from Artin's perspective, it was trying to destabilize the capital. Denerim felt very safe with Loghain in charge, so she wanted them to feel slightly less safe. Like Loghain wasn't quite as competent as they had first thought, so that's why she did the crime wave. We helped clear customers out of the Pearl. We handled the Crimson Ores. We gave Alstana Ermenric's ring. We returned the amulet to the beggar. We completed Master Ignacio's assassinations. Again, this was less to do with making Denerim feel kind of uncertain about Loghain. This was because The assassinations took place all over Ferelden. Again, it was making the country feel a little bit unsafe. Like, Loghain couldn't protect them as well as he was claiming he could. We helped Alistair find Guldana. This is just a crappy situation, bearing in mind that Guldana isn't actually Alistair's sibling. Alistair believes Guldana to be his sister because Guldana is the daughter of the servant girl that Alistair was told was his mother. However, that was a lie. That Alistair has nothing to do with that servant girl, so this was just a sad situation. And yes, Marjolaine was killed. She was sending assassins after Liliana. She had to be stopped, because what if those assassins killed either Artyn or Alistair? That was Artyn's thinking. We are the two remaining Grey Wardens in the country. If those assassins kill us, then Ferelden is screwed, and once Ferelden, dies, the Darkspawn will come back down and murder Orzammar. So, no, this cannot. Words do not suffice in this situation. She just has to go. The Landsmeet. Yes, Anora rules alone. Everything Artyn had been told about Anora was that she was an excellent queen. She was the power behind the throne. Kaelin just sort of dicked about with the soldiers and screwed servant girls. Like, she had absolutely no reason to doubt Anora, and as I said, she wasn't about to put Alistair on the throne without his consent. So, Anora rules. The prologue. What an odd place for it. Yes, we fed the whoops. I'm sorry, it is very hot in this back room today, and I am doing a lot of talking. Yes, we fed the prisoner at Ostergard the Guard's lunch. Artyn, she had a bit of a soft spot for prisoners because she had recently been arrested for a crime that she hadn't committed. So, yeah, she was very sympathetic towards prisoners. And we cured the Mabari Hound because he was a good bubba. Oh, I miss Thorin. He was a good dog. The urn of sacred ashes. The urn was not defiled. Again, Artyn just kind of like, why would I do that? Why should I care about this pot of dust? Just grab it and go. Just take a pinch and go. Again, she didn't understand it. She could understand the urn more than the maker, because it's something. You can touch it, you can see it, you can snort it in this case. An invisible man in the sky, she just didn't understand it. And she didn't care enough. She wasn't so anti-Chantry that she'd defile it. The Battle of Denerim. The Warden killed the Archdemon because of Alistair and Morrigan doing the Dark Ritual. The Arl of Redcliffe. We helped Redcliffe fight because of course we did. There would be absolutely no point in not helping them fight. That just helped the Darkspawn. We freed Bevan and returned the sword because, it belonged to his ancestor, considering that Artyn comes from a culture that does ancestor worship and, all of that. I figured she'd be more inclined to return the sword after she had used it. We helped Redcliffe prepare. We helped Owen's daughter escape from the castle. Connor is alive and he is not possessed. And Isolde is alive because we went and got the mage's help. To be honest, this whole situation, this could have gone very differently if Artyn hadn't have known about Alistair's background. Because it was at this stage she had just learned that he was a prince. He was like her, and Alistair was so vehemently like, please, no, don't use blood magic, don't kill the boy, please, can we just go to the circle? And Artyn, again, it was the thing of like, oh, you're like me. I didn't think I'd ever meet someone like me, but here you are in this very unexpected place. And she did kind of want to make Alistair happy at that stage. He hadn't exactly become important to her, but this, like I say, was someone like her when she never expected that. So she was a lot more inclined to listen to him. Otherwise, to be honest, we didn't have the option of using blood magic because we sent Jowan away. But for Alistair having told her that he was a prince, that he was like her, she would have just killed Connor. It was the quickest, simplest solution. But, you know, luckily for Connor, Alistair came clean about his background, and Bella did indeed take ownership of the tavern. Okay, what is next? Yes, awakening. The warden allowed the architect to live. Again, this was Artin thinking ahead to the future. The surfaces, they're very grateful right now. They're very grateful that she killed the archdemon. However, in, 5, 6, 7, 8 years' time, they'll have forgotten. That generosity will only go so far, and the only other group to know how the dwarves suffer is the Darkspawn. So Artin did form a temporary alliance with the architect. They can help each other now, however, there will come a time when that pact will have to go, and Artin is just hoping that in that time, they will have gained more knowledge about the Darkspawn than the Darkspawn will have gained knowledge about them. The Keep and Amaranthine were both protected. She stayed at Amaranthine, and I believe, to be fair, I don't know which is which, but she stayed at Amaranthine to help the people, and she had built up the Keep good enough. She had, had good, sturdy dwarven workers rebuilding the walls, so it held up no problem. Nathaniel is alive and well, and Oghren and Felsi were reunited. Oghren, luckily, Oghren will be in his child's life. Whether that is a good thing or a bad thing, I don't know, but the child deserves to know their father, at the very least. Witch hunt, yes. We didn't go through the Illuvian. There was too much for Artin to do, but she did just say goodbye to Morrigan. Artin liked Morrigan. They were very good friends. There was absolutely no reason for Artin to stab Morrigan as she went through. And the last two for Origins. Warden's Keep. We didn't drink the concoction. It was a bottle of blood on a table. Who drinks that? Who drinks that? And we slayed Sophia and allowed Avernus ethical research. And the Stone Prisoner DLC, Shale is indeed alive and well. Matthias and Amalia are both alive and neither are possessed. And Shale was recruited. There we go. That is everything for Origins. On to Dragon Age 2. Indeed, Amelia Hawke was our champion, and she had a humorous personality. It all hid the fact that she was constantly bricking it. Amelia was in a constant state of fear and panic, and she learned very young that she had to hide that fear with humor. And I love Amelia, again, because I love all of my characters. Amelia, though, she had some views, which you are going to see. Also, I should mention she was a mage, as you can see, which may raise your eyebrows when it comes to certain choices she made. Her companions, she romanced Anders, and my god, it was toxic. It was such a toxic relationship, but that's kind of what I wanted. I don't like all of my characters to be these paragons of virtue who have healthy relationships and are, good people. Like, I don't like that. I like my characters to be a little more nuanced. And in Amelia's case, she certainly played into, I would say, the more negative aspects of, the human psyche. Like I said, she was very scared. She was entirely emotion-based. There was very little logical thinking to her. Artin was all logic. She was logic and reason and common sense. Amelia was emotion all the way. That was the only way that she could think, was just these very, impulsive, snap judgments, and oh god, what is that? Oh, I hope it doesn't hurt me. That was Amelia to a T. She was friends with Varric. Bethany died while escaping Lothering. Carver died in the Deep Roads, and this death. To be fair, all of the deaths of her family really messed her up because it really encouraged her to be afraid. That was the thing. Everything just sort of piled on. All of this pressure and loss and pressure and loss and fear, it just mounted. It kept on mounting until it was so high that it blotted out the sun for Amelia. Like I said, by the end, I truly see Amelia, you know, after the events of Dragon Age 2, just sat in a cave, just depressed as all hell, contemplating taking her own life. To be brutally honest, that is kind of how I see Amelia, because she had nothing at the end. She didn't even have her lover. She had nothing. Just, yeah, like I said, Amelia's story was very sad. Bertrand was not killed. He was sent to a sanitarium. Bethany did not live to see the Mage Templar War. We helped Varric discover the cause of the haunting. Varric kept the Red Valyrium idol, mainly because he brought up his brother. He brought up the fact that he could use this to save his brother, and Amelia would have done anything to go back and save Carver, so how could she deny Varric that? We recruited Isabella, and Isabella did indeed return to Hawke. Fenris is alive and well. We didn't give Isabella to the Arashok because fuck the Qunari. Fuck the Qun. Amelia, she hated them. She was incredibly zealous. A little too zealous, if you get my meaning. Merrill stayed with Hawke, and Merrill is alive and well. Amelia did not approve of Anders' actions at the Chantry. Amelia, not only was Amelia pro-Templar, she was super pro-Chantry. She loved the Chantry, and so Anders doing what he did, no. Absolutely not. Anders was executed. This was difficult for me personally because I love Anders. I absolutely love Anders, and it hurts every single time I do this, but it's what she would do. It is what she would do. Amelia had a rival romance with Anders, and so at the end, he was begging to be killed. And Amelia's whole relationship with Anders, as I said, it was incredibly toxic. She kind of thought, oh, I can fix this guy. I can fix him. And at the end, she realized I couldn't. And I was incredibly stupid for thinking that. Like I said, it was not a healthy relationship, but, you know, at the end, she kind of felt like this was the only thing she could do. Merrill destroyed the Alluvion. Aveline married Donnic, and Aveline stayed with Hawke. Merrill's clan was not killed. We recruited Sebastian. We didn't make Talis angry, and we didn't kiss Talis. The fact that Talis is in the tapestry annoys me. I hate this character with a vengeance. Now then, the prologue. We joined the smugglers. Amelia wasn't proud of her magic. She was scared of her magic. That's why she spent so much of her time afraid. It was because she was effectively scared of herself. And joining the mercenaries, they were this, I don't know if famous is the right word, but they were well known. Joining them, it would have made her known as a mage, if you get what I'm saying. She wanted to be discreet. She didn't want people looking at her and going, oh, that's Amelia Hawke. She's a mage. The thought of that, it turned her stomach, so that's why she joined the smugglers. Ooh, come on. Act 1. We turned the mages over to the Templars. As I said, Amelia, very pro-Templar, very zealous. She loved the Chantry, and a mage's place is in the circle. And here's the thing, Amelia wasn't a hypocrite. She wasn't like, oh, mages belong in the circle, except for me. Amelia wanted to be in the circle. Every time the act ended, Amelia always kind of thought, oh, I'll join the circle. However, things came up and thus she never got the chance. And then she was champion, and Meredith was kind of like, oh, you can do more work for us out there. And so Amelia was like, if the Knight Commander is telling me this, then clearly I'm meant to be out here. But Amelia really did want to join the circle. We returned the cargo to Martin. For as afraid as Amelia is of magic, here's the thing, it kind of blinded her. Like, she gave, like, poison and swords, like, infinite chances, but, like, magic, oh god, no, that has to be controlled, that has to be contained, you know. Like, what if someone wants to use the poison to kill rats? We don't know that they're gonna use it to kill people. Oh, but mages are all evil. Including myself, I am evil because I am a mage. That was Amelia to a T. Kelda was killed because he was asking to be killed, and he was killing elven children, and he said that he wouldn't stop. We returned Seamus to the Viscount. Guinness died because she got in our way. We killed Danzig. He was a slaver. Slavers deserve to die. We didn't tell the truth to Ghislaine about his wife's death. This decision haunts Amelia because here's the thing. So if you remember in Act 3, one of the reasons why the guard wouldn't investigate these disappearances and deaths was that there was no way that they could be linked. There was no proof that the bag of remains we found was the women that, I can't remember his name, but that the Templar was claiming they were. There was no evidence, but there was. There was a wedding ring with a specific inscription on one of the hands. However, Amelia took it off and she gave it to Ghislaine. And because she didn't tell him the truth, he took the ring. If she hadn't have done that, if she had been honest, then he probably would have returned the ring to her and she would have given it to the Templar. And that would have been evidence that these women were killed. They hadn't just disappeared, and thus the guard would have investigated. And if they would have investigated, then maybe Leandra wouldn't have died. So this one act of kindness on Amelia's part potentially killed her mom. This haunts her, it really does. We solved the mystery of the missing miners. We didn't blackmail Sir Thrask. Iduna is alive and well. We sent Fainriel to the Circle because of course we did. That's where he was safest. Mages are safest in the Circle, Amelia thought. Keren was reinstated within the Templars. We handed Katojan over to the Kunari. Again, Amelia hated the Kun. She hated the Kunari. They were heathens and infidels. Amelia, she really didn't want to involve herself in this situation. The only reason why she did was because a Chantry priest asked her to. And, you know, Katojan, very clearly a Kunari. He clearly believed in the Kun. She didn't have a problem with the race. Amelia wasn't a racist. She just hated other religions. She was a zealot. So once it became apparent that Katojan was a Kunari, he believed in the religion, she was just like, okay, screw you. Go back to your people, I don't care. And Karas was indeed alive and well, unfortunately. Act 2. We killed Gasgard. He was a blood mage. He had to die. We didn't side with Varnell against the Kunari. Amelia tried. Amelia really wanted to because, like I said, she was a Chantry zealot. Why would she protect the Kun? Unfortunately, you have to have an aggressive personality to side with Varnell, which I think is really rather stupid. I think that was a really piss-poor design choice on BioWare's part because, like I said, Amelia was a zealot. She wouldn't have sided with the Qunari. She would have sided with the Templar. Unfortunately, that was not possible, which means we couldn't side with Patrice. We did discover the looter of Hubert's caravans. We didn't encounter Yevon because Nathaniel was alive. Javaris is alive and well. We fought alongside the guards. Fainriel was freed and left for Tevinter. Amelia didn't like hurting people. Amelia, literally, once she had everything in the Spirit Healer tree and the Creation tree, I did not spend any more of her skill points. She had something like 12 skill points by the end of the game because I wasn't spending them. Because I only ever intended her to be a healer. Healer, full stop. She did not know any attack spells, aside from Mind Blast, which she started off with at the beginning of the game. And because of that, she had intended to make Fainriel tranquil. However, she found that she couldn't kill him. He was confident in himself. If he had been begging to be made tranquil, she would have done. However, he was confident and looking to the future, and Amelia couldn't bring herself to hurt him. So he left for Tevinter, and Amelia felt very guilty about that. She did not approve of this decision. And we killed the Arashok in single combat. And remember what I just said? Amelia didn't know a single attack spell? Yeah, this was difficult. It took me ages. Act 3. Hawk offered to help Nuncio, but then we discovered that he had lied, and because we had Isabella with us, who could vouch for Zevran, we let him go. We handed the conspirators over to Meredith. We rescued Nathaniel. We reunited Charade and Gamlin. We returned Emil to the Circle. We killed the dragon at the Bone Pit. We gave Karen to the Templars. And then, oddity of oddities, we sided with the mages at the end. Amelia, like I said, Amelia, very pro-Templar, very pro-Chantry. However, right at the end there, when Anders blew up the circle, when he exploded the Chantry, and Meredith announced the rite of annulment on the circle, Amelia couldn't get behind that. She was devastated by Elthena's death, and all she wanted was that the right people be punished. And that was her and Anders. That's all Amelia wanted. Amelia just wanted Meredith to punish her and Anders, and Meredith didn't. And Amelia had spent her entire life looking to the Chantry for guidance. And in this one situation, she couldn't because the Chantry had exploded, so she had to look inside herself. And she kind of thought about the Chant of Light and what the Chant of Light would say. And in this case, she thought the Chant of Light would demand I stand up for the innocent. And in this case, the mages are innocent. They didn't do this. Punish me and Anders, and Meredith wouldn't. So, like I said, Amelia had to be the one to punish Anders, and now she's living in her own hell, which I think is a pretty fitting punishment. So yeah, we sided with the mages in the end, and Amelia became a symbol of mage freedom, which is what she would hate. That is not what Amelia is about in the slightest. And last but by no means least, legacy. We sided with Larius. 1, Janica was a mage, which meant she couldn't be trusted. And 2, she was saying like, oh, we should wake up the Darkspawn. No thank you. The Darkspawn wrecked Ferelden. Let's not do that. And she did indeed find Malcolm's will. There we go. That is everything. Now that you're probably either seeing an ever-increasing void or just something really blurry. That's because my choices for Inquisition are already input into the keep, and those are spoilers. You all don't get to see what my canon Inquisitor is or does. Now then, to finish this off, we have a very nice world state video that is narrated by Varric to watch, so let's do it.
If you believe the stories, mankind's pride gave rise to the Darkspawn. Countless in number and toxic to all life, Darkspawn search endlessly for an archdemon. When they find one, Darkspawn armies surge up from their corrupt barrows beneath the ground, and a blight begins. Grey Wardens are the only warriors capable of destroying an archdemon, and history always honors the one who sacrifices all to kill the beast. In the fifth blight, the Warden was the hero of Ferelden. A dwarven royal, second child of King Endrin Iduken. Framed for a murder and ultimately cast out, the young noble met Duncan, a Grey Warden, who saw the dwarf's potential as a Warden recruit. The allied Ferelden and Grey Warden forces met in Ostagar, where King Kaelin's armies and a host of Wardens gathered, ready to destroy the Darkspawn. But valor turned to despair as Loghain betrayed his king. Kaelin's forces were slaughtered, and the south was lost. The hero, now a full-fledged Grey Warden, survived with the aid of Flemeth, the mysterious witch of the wilds. Joined by Flemeth's daughter, Morrigan, and a Grey Warden named Alistair, the hero set out to build an army strong enough to abolish the Blight. With the traitorous Loghain now seated on Ferelden's throne, the Warden sought help from the influential Arl Eamon of Redcliffe. However, they arrived in Redcliffe to find the town under siege. As each night, undead rose in waves and assailed the battered village. With the hero's help, the people of Redcliffe stood fast against the undead horde. The Wardens reached Arl Eamon's castle only to find the Arl lying at the edge of death, and his court fallen into madness. To save his father's life, Eamon's young son, Connor, had made a deal with a demon, and quickly fallen victim to its possession. The hero intervened, freeing Connor from possession, and breaking the demon's hold over Redcliffe. But deals with demons are never straightforward. The demon agreed only to save Eamon's life, not restore him to health. Arl Eamon needed a miracle to recover. The hero located an urn containing the sacred ashes of Andraste, which were said to cure any ailment. The urn was protected by ancient traps, tests of will, and a dragon-worshipping cult that wanted to twist the urn's power to its own ends. The urn remained pure, but mysteriously disappeared after the Wardens departed. Only the temple dedicated to it still stands. With a pinch of the ashes, the hero restored the Arl to health. Informed of Loghain's treachery, Eamon swore his political and military support. The circles of Magi are bound by oath to aid the Grey Wardens in times of blight. However, Lake Calenhad's tower could offer little help. One of its mages, Uldred, had become possessed by a pride demon and was twisting other circle mages into abominations. The hero fought to the top of the tower and defeated Uldred, saving the remaining mages. Grateful for their lives, the mages joined the Warden's army. The allies gained at the circle were not the only soldiers to join the Warden's forces, however. Dalish elves don't usually make alliances, but even deep hatred can be set aside in the face of oblivion. An ancient curse was destroying Ferelden's largest Dalish clans, turning the elves into werewolves. Zathrian, the clan's keeper, claimed that the cure required the heart of the great wolf, Witherfang. Years before, Zathrian himself had afflicted a group of humans with the curse that now ravaged his clan. As long as he lived, the curse endured. The hero freed the werewolves from the long-standing curse, and the Dalish joined the Warden's forces. Blights may happen hundreds of years apart, but the dwarves who live below the surface of Thedas fight Darkspawn every day. No one is better schooled in battling Darkspawn than the warriors of Orzammar, except perhaps their allies of old, the Grey Wardens. The hero arrived in Orzammar in the wake of King Endrin's death to find political factions fighting for control of the dwarven capital. Only the vote of a venerated paragon could break the deadlock to elect a ruler, and order the dwarves to honor their Grey Warden treaty and join the battle against the new blight. The hero set off to find a paragon named Branka, who had disappeared into the Deep Roads in search of a legendary artifact, the Anvil of the Void, created by the renowned smith Caridin to forge mighty war golems. The hero helped Caridin destroy the Anvil of the Void, along with the dark secrets that could trap a living soul inside a mechanical construct. The hero emerged from the Deep Roads with a master-forged crown to bestow the Paragon's favor upon whichever rival candidate would be crowned king. Balin, the youngest son of King Andrin, who was suspected of foul play, or Haramond, the aging traditionalist backed by the Dwarven Assembly. Balin followed his father to the throne. He leads with a ruthless but progressive hand, seeking to re-establish ties to the Surface Kingdoms. With Dwarden's strength now bolstering the Warden's army, the hero had to deal with Loghain, so Ferelden could stand unified against the Darkspawn, before the Blight swallowed the world. The kingdom of Ferelden stood divided. While some nobles supported Loghain's regency, others condemned his inaction against the Darkspawn. Civil war brewed, and Arl Eamon called a landsmeet in hopes of curtailing the conflict and removing Loghain from the throne. Alistair ended Loghain's life in the name of justice for the Wardens who died at Ostagar. As the Wardens' united army massed in Redcliffe, the Darkspawn overran Denerim, laying siege to Ferelden's capital city. The hero's army fought valiantly through Denerim and broke the Darkspawn siege. On Fort Dracon's highest tower, the hero's strongest allies fought alongside the Warden in a final heroic battle against the massive Archdemon. The Archdemon was killed without the sacrifice of a Grey Warden's life. With no Archdemon to lead them, the Darkspawn scattered. Most fled underground, still teeming in number and always seeking a new Archdemon to awaken. The shattered kingdom of Ferelden embarked on a long journey to recovery. In the Blight's aftermath, strong leadership was crucial. Honora MacTyr, daughter of Terran Loghain and widow of King Cailan, assumed the throne of Ferelden after the Fifth Blight was ended. Ferelden still stands, as obstinate and resolute as the Dog Lords ever are, but the events of the Fifth Blight loom over it as the nation rebuilds. For people across Thedas, legends of the hero of Ferelden remain the nation's brightest beacons of hope during its darkest times. It all began in Kirkwall, the fall of Knight Commander Meredith, the Kunari Uprising, and of course, the Chantry's destruction and the onset of Mage Rebellion. One person always stood amidst the swirling chaos: Hawke, the champion of Kirkwall. The Hawke family fled Lothering, refugees from the Blight. Leandra, mother of the champion, and siblings Bethany and Carver, hoped to find refuge at her family's estate in Kirkwall, far to the north. As a mage with a family legacy of magic on both sides, Hawke naturally became involved in the events that ultimately led to the Mage Rebellion. The Hawks escaped the Blight with the help of Aveline Valen, a warrior and family friend. It's said that the family was also aided by Flemeth, the notorious Witch of the Wilds. Hawke's sister Bethany never reached the Free Marches. She was killed by Darkspawn while defending her family. The family's first years in Kirkwall were difficult. Leandra's brother Gamlin had lost the family fortune. The Hawks lived in poverty, forced to indenture themselves in return for entrance to the city. To pay off the debt, Hawke was forced to work for a gang of smugglers. All the while, Hawke and Carver did their best to hide Hawke's magic from the Templars. Opportunity eventually struck in the form of a dwarf named Bartrand Tethras, who was planning an expedition to the Deep Roads. It was a long shot, but with gold gained from the expedition, Hawke could free the family from its criminal creditors and further Templar scrutiny. Hawk met a rogue Grey Warden named Anders, who possessed detailed maps of the deep roads. These maps were crucial to the expedition's success. Once Hawk obtained them, everything else fell quickly into place. Carver joined Hawk on the expedition. The siblings found ancient dwarven treasure and a statuette formed from a strange red lyrium. Tragically, Carver fell victim to the blight that suffuses the deep roads and died in his siblings' arms. The gold Hawk recovered from the deep roads brought back Leandra's stately childhood home in Hightown. The Hawks had barely settled into their new home when Leandra was murdered. A deeply sinister and twisted killing. Hawk hunted down Quentin, the blood mage responsible, but could not prevent Leandra's death. Leandra's tragic death was part of a critical problem facing Kirkwall. Rising tension between the city's mages, who felt increasingly oppressed, and Templars, who grew increasingly suspicious of their activities. Adding to the strain, a large contingent of Qunari had also established themselves in Kirkwall, much to the growing discomfort of the city's rulers. After their dreadnought was shipwrecked many years before, a group of stranded Qunari were allowed to remain in a cordoned-off area in Lowtown. As time passed, the Qunari made no effort to return home, and offered no explanation about why they remained. Tensions rose to a breaking point. Revered Mother Patrice, convinced the Qunari were a threat to the Chantry's faith, incited violence between the Qunari and the Kirkwall populace. Hawk knew that Patrice would bring about unnecessary conflict. Though the champion tried to stop her, Patrice orchestrated the murder of Seamus Dumar, a Viscount's son and a recent convert to the Qun. When her crime was discovered, a Qunari assassin killed her. After Seamus was murdered, the Arishok of the Qunari group lost patience with the humans of Kirkwall. They would now submit to the Qun or die. The Qunari struck hard and fast. They took the palace in Hightown and beheaded the Viscount to immediately quash any resistance. Aided by Knight Commander Meredith and First Enchanter Orsino, Hawk reached the palace and stood toe-to-toe with the fearsome Qunari leader. Hawk fought the Qunari leader. The fierce battle resulted in the Arishok's death and the liberation of Kirkwall from its brief occupation. The Qunari quickly withdrew from the city entirely. Hawk saved Kirkwall and earned the grudging respect of the city's Templars, mages, and nobility, along with the title that history remembers, the Champion of Kirkwall. Kirkwall's problems were still not over, however. After Viscount Dumar's death, Knight Commander Meredith took power and blocked all attempts to appoint a new Viscount. Under Meredith's command, the Templars tightened their grip on the mages, planning to suppress what Meredith saw as a growing rebellion. Anders, who spent years fighting for justice and freedom for his fellow mages, saw that the time for negotiation was past. He destroyed Kirkwall's chantry, killing hundreds, including Grand Cleric Elthina. This single act began a rebellion that spread from circle to circle, until all circles of Magi had risen up in defiance against Chantry rule. There was no forgiveness for what Anders had done, and he asked for death at Hawk's hands. Hawk fulfilled the troubled mage's final request, and many others died along with Anders that day. Fighting spread swiftly through the city. Some mages rebelled openly, many of them succumbing to possession. Templars turned their swords on mages who rebelled, and on those who did not. As First Enchanter Orsino refused to bend to the Templars, Knight Commander Meredith demanded that every mage in Kirkwall be put to the sword. Hawk saved many mages from Templar blades, keeping them from succumbing to possession or the temptations of blood magic. In the end, however, Hawk was forced to strike down Orsino, who had betrayed his own values by resorting to blood magic himself. The battle proved one thing. Knight Commander Meredith had gone mad. Hawk saw the truth of it when Meredith unsheathed her sword, and the red lyrium idol from the deep roads was embedded within it. The blade fueled her hatred and paranoia, as it had for months. After a horrific battle, the red lyrium of the Knight Commander's sword consumed her as she died. Meredith became a statue, her face a frozen mask of horror. Little is known of the champion since that final battle. However, Hawke's story lives on in legend and song. Memories of the indelible changes the champion of Kirkwall brought to the face of Thedas. The Mage Rebellion in Kirkwall was felt throughout Thedas, the news spreading like wildfire. The Templars clamped down in response, but each new restriction only made things worse. Led by Grand Enchanter Fiona, the mages voted for independence. The Circle of Magi would govern itself, without the Chantry and especially without the Templars. The result was cataclysmic. 2 circles were destroyed. Those within killed to the last mage, before the rest fled into the wilderness. Perhaps the mighty Empire of Orlais could have intervened in the war before it began, but that was not to be. Grand Duke Espard began a deadly civil war against Empress Celine, vying for the Orlesian throne. The mages were offered safe haven in neighboring Ferelden, but the Templars followed, and so their battle spread across all of Thedas. As head of the Chantry, Divine Justinia ordered the Templars to stand down. They refused, declaring their own independence. Thus, the war began in earnest. Templars hunting mages, mages fighting Templars. Their clashes wreaked untold destruction. All sense of order was falling to pieces. Divine Justinia made one final desperate bid to end the war. She approached the leaders of both sides and convinced them to come to a conclave held on neutral ground. With the Chantry to mediate, mages and Templars will talk for the first time since this all began. It is our last, and perhaps our only, chance for peace.
And there we go. That is the story so far. And as I said, we will be getting started on Dragon Age Inquisition on Monday, the 24th of January. But until then, please remember to like if you enjoyed, leave a comment below. And if you wanted to subscribe, it would be very much appreciated. I've been Callista. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next episode.